Hi, my name's Jules. So, this is a video where I talk about kind of just personal lessons I've learned during the year 2025. A lot of this stuff is kind of things that I mostly learned in like the second half of the year. I'll explain about that in a minute. But I decided to make it into this little slideshow type thing just to make it easier. I mean, I'm mostly going to be talking and I'll remember my like talking points and stuff, but I thought at least you'll have something to look at. And I might make more of these as well. That's why I have it just listed as 2025. I feel like it would be kind of nice to make these as like a yearly end of the year type thing. Okay, so the reason why I'm doing this, I was originally going to write a whole paragraph, but I thought, I can just like tell you. So this year has been kind of interesting. I know I don't really share personal stuff on here or anything. It's mostly just like art, or there was the videos of like the birds and stuff I took at the beach. But the reason this is called like Jules does ? And not just like Jules does art or whatever, which is originally what it was going to be, is I just wanted a channel where I'd be able to make whatever I felt like I have a separate channel that's just for like games and movies, because I do so much of that stuff of like movie reviews and playing video games. But I wanted a separate channel that could be for like any artwork I do or just videos I take outside or whatever I'm feeling, but also kind of a place if I wanted to talk about like more personal stuff, or maybe videos with my friends, just kind of more general in life things really, and also I guess mostly art and animation stuff. I might do more videos of like showing things in my sketchbook and stuff. I'll see. But the reason I wanted to specifically make this is I'm at like a really weird place this year where I've been like going to college for a while, and I actually graduated college in June. So like the first half of the year was like very stressful, and I felt very like burned out and such, and some of those lessons I learned during that portion of the year also included here, but most of them have been from the second half, where I'm in a weird place where I was in like school for so long, and now I don't have school, that it's like kind of taking a while to get used to, but like all my friends are still in school, so it's like it's like I have the time to hang out with people, but no one's able to hang out with me, sort of thing, where I'm not able to go to a place where I'm like regularly interacting with my peers, and then I also haven't really been able to find a job, so I'm still trying to find ways to keep myself productive while I'm looking, and just it's a lot of feelings I'm feeling at this point, and especially like this year. And I've been like realizing some things about like myself and my habits, and just things I've kind of had to learn over the years, or over this year I should say. And I just thought it would be kind of nice as like an end of the year reflection thing to talk about some of the stuff I've learned and did and what's helped me. And I thought maybe if I make some of these tips and whatever, maybe it'll help other people that are kind of even if you're not at the same life point or whatever, or if you're just kind of maybe feeling some of these things, maybe it'll help. Maybe it's things people relate to. Maybe you guys have some tips of your own for me. And I just want to clarify before I start that some of these things are things I'm like still currently going through and working through, or some of the tips might seem kind of general of like, don't do this or do this or try to do this or whatever, and it might seem like, oh, but Jules, it's not that easy, and trust me, I understand it. Like I said, some of these things are still things I'm struggling, but I tried to put some of these little tips and lessons and things in kind of more just generalized terms, especially because I'm trying to just put it almost in like a bullet point format, just as more talking points. And I thought, oh, I'll explain it more once I actually make the video and maybe connect it to some experiences I've had that help and stuff. And I don't know, I don't even really know what my I guess audience for this channel is either. Like I'm someone that's like a young adult somewhere in my 20s. You may not be you could be someone that's like older or younger than me, or maybe kind of already know these things. I don't know, but I thought, hey, it would be kind of nice to share. Maybe it helps somebody. So I divided this into categories. I kind of just made this whole Canva PowerPoint thing like really fast anyway. There might be some mistakes, but I just wanted to just kind of quickly write the points down. I divided these into categories of just different types of things. So social, which I guess I could also just call like people and places, really, of just interacting with people or going out and stuff. There's another one that's like mental health, productivity, and there's another one about being yourself. So I decided to start with the social one first. So my first, and I'll kind of clarify more about these as I'm reading about them and stuff. So the first one, which is one of the things I've really had to, that I kind of only figured out the second half of the year, is like remembering to talk to people, and especially like people your own age. I mean, you can make friends with like anybody, but I'll clarify in a bit what that means. And even if it's virtual, it can help so you don't isolate someone. Like, I'm personally someone that's on the introvert to extrovert scale, someone that's more of an introvert. I'm kind of weird where it's like I guess I shouldn't say weird, but like I can be social with people if I'm like very, very close and I'm like hanging out with someone that I really like, and there's someone I feel comfortable and easy to talk to. I just will not shut up around that person, or I'll like send them a lot of things and whatever, and we'll chat a bunch. Or if I'm around strangers, I find myself more talkative. I think it's because it's people I don't know, and you'd think that would be scary, of like, you don't know how to react around these people, you don't know what they're like. But I think for me it's like there's no expectations, because I don't know you, and you might be a stranger that I talk to in like in line in a grocery store that I might never see again. So it feels easier for me to be calm. But yeah, when it's around people I know, it's kind of weird. I tend to be a bit quieter, whether it was like classmates or even sometimes friends. I would especially isolate myself when I got very stressed, or even now where I don't really have anywhere I'm like going out to or anything. I've been trying to talk to people more. I mentioned the virtual thing because Discord specifically has been like really helpful with me. Like, I'm someone that even isolates myself on there, where sometimes I don't talk much, but I've been really trying to make the effort, since I'm done with college, and it's not like I'm every day or weekly going somewhere where I get to interact with other people. I mean, I live with other people, thankfully. I don't like live alone or anything, but I found that when I first had finished with like school and stuff, and I didn't really have anybody to talk to, I felt kind of lonely, especially when I'd hear about like my friends at school and they'd be like doing stuff, or they'd miss me or whatever, and it kind of sucked. And then I ended up making some new friends. It's over like Discord. I've only ever met one of them, where I've sort of joined a new friend group, and we watch movies like 3 times a week. I'm someone that really enjoys movies anyway, so that's been nice. But that's kind of what I wanted to get into at this point, where I've realized, like, from making this new friend group, of how I kind of need to be social even if I don't want to, and how I was surprised how happy I ended up being from joining this group, even if I've never met almost any of them in person, or didn't really know a lot about any of them. I don't know any of these people's actual names, or how old they are, or whatever, or even where most of them are from, but we still just kind of bond over watching movies and sharing funny memes and stuff, and they all kind of at least sound like they're sort of around my age. I don't mean like you have to be exactly the same age, but within like at least the same like decade or whatever, even if you're like 5 years apart. I feel that you kind of have a different way of interacting with those people that are like close to your age, say, than someone that's a lot like younger or older than you, probably because you're at like somewhat similar points of life. You're maybe going through some of the same struggles, and it's easier to kind of like give each other advice and talk about things, and you're kind of like suffering together in a sense. Like when I was in college, I was around people that were like around my age and stuff, but I noticed with more social people, I had a hard time like opening up. I think it's really just about like finding people that you feel comfortable talking to about stuff. You kind of have like similar interests, I think really helps. And even if it's like virtual, like I said, like I've only interacted with this group and on Discord, I haven't really gone out with like friends that much or anything. You still get that like same connection, even if you're like experiencing it in a different way. Like I used to think I wouldn't really be able to bond with people online because I just find it easier to interact with people with your in person, but I'm realizing like if you're people that just like mesh well together anyway, you'll find a way, you know, even if it's like you all live far apart or something. But I didn't really want to be part of the group at first. I was just doing it for the movies, and I eventually left for a while, and then I came back and I was kind of isolating myself. But then once I kind of officially joined and I'm making the effort, and I view these people as my friends now, and I look forward to these movie nights and such, it feels really good to be able to just talk to people again, especially people my own age, especially because I interact most of the time with like family and stuff of people that are a lot older than me, and sometimes that can feel kind of hard if it doesn't give me the chance to talk about my interests or things I'm excited about. So yeah, that's my first point with this, and probably one of the most helpful things I have to share in here that I've really like learned this year. And then the second one is about being able to like open up to people, like once you've made friends and having people to vent to. I'm someone that tends to just kind of bottle things up, where I have anxiety. I get very stressed out about things, and sometimes I feel like I'm bothering people if I vent, or it's kind of like you have to be careful of who you decide to vent to, because some people might not take what you're saying seriously, or some people, when you're seeking comfort, will try to give you advice instead, and I've noticed that can tend to make me feel worse, even if the other person from their perspective is just trying to be helpful. They want to like solve your problem, but sometimes you're not looking for solutions, and you have to like clarify those things or whatever. But if you can find people you feel like comfortable to talk to, whether it's like friends or family or something, it gets kind of easier to vent to people. Like a lot of the time, that's what I meant with that first point of like it hurts when you don't have people to vent to. If you like try to bottle it up like I do, and I still do it, and that's like a hard habit to break, you kind of can feel a lot worse and such. And it's up to you how much you want to share. That's something else I've had to realize, because as you can tell, even for me talking and doing this, I tend to just overshare things, or sometimes I don't think about it too much of like what I say or whatever, or I think like maybe it helps, but then sometimes people don't want to like hear all that, or it's too much, or you accidentally say something you probably shouldn't share to that specific person or whatever. Yeah, so it's like up to you how much you feel comfortable saying or whatever, if you need to just vent about the whole, like give every detail about the whole situation, or sometimes it's just like, hey, this thing happened, I'm feeling sad about it, it sucked. Sometimes that's all I do, and that can be enough. But I've noticed when I finally do vent to someone, like I recently went through something where I was like beating myself up over something, which is a point you'll hear me talk about in a different slide. And to the point where I was so stressed about it, I wasn't sleeping. I had like screwed something up, and then I eventually decided to vent to a friend about it. I ended up deciding to share every detail and whatever, and the friend didn't really give me some advice, which was good. I wasn't really looking for that. It was more so they wrote something positive, and it wasn't much, but it did make me feel better. I felt, and it's still something that's in the back of my mind, that I'm like kind of the issue that I'm like stressed about, because I have a very hard time letting those things go. But I keep thinking about what my friend said, and I think that helped me kind of let go of the issue. I guess with the venting thing, I mean, sometimes you can seek for advice, but if you just need comfort, not someone you trust, sometimes just hearing someone try to spin the situation into a positive way can kind of really help and sort of leave your mind at ease for a while. And then my third thing is like, even if you don't want to go out or hang out with somebody, try to take advantage of it when you can. I'd sort of made this mistake, and it does connect to things this year, by the way. Like when I was in high school, my friends, which for me was a while ago, my friends wanted to hang out all the time, and I kept isolating myself, and I just didn't want to go out. And I liked these people and everything, but sometimes I just did not want to deal with like a big group or going to places. And I, at the time, just kind of wanted to stay home. I'm kind of a bit of a homebody. And now I kind of regret that, because I don't really talk to that group anymore. And now it's like I have the time and the urge specifically like to want to hang out with people, but now I'm at the point where no one has time to hang out with me, but I have the time. So I feel kind of regretful with that. But it doesn't just have to be with friends. It could be with like family and stuff too. And it doesn't have to be like a scheduled thing of like a once a week go out with somebody or whatever. I feel like I have a hard time sticking to schedules anyway. But sometimes it's like somebody wants to hang out, or they invite me somewhere, or even just going out to lunch, and sometimes I just have that feeling in the back of my brain of like, oh, I don't want to go out. Maybe it's like I just don't feel like going out, because it takes a lot out of you to like be social and interact with people. Even if you're not really talking much, I can sometimes feel kind of drained, or it's like you have to go to this location, you have to be there with that person, and sometimes you don't want to, or it's kind of too much. But I find that sometimes when I force myself to, even if like I don't like the person or whatever, sometimes it's good to just kind of get out of the house and do things. Even if you like go out to lunch, or even if you go to a movie, I figured out, like I went to a movie with a friend, and it was someone I liked, and we hung out afterwards. But even just like going to a movie theater where you don't have to like talk to anybody, and you can just watch a movie. And that's part of the thing with my whole social tab too, is like hanging out with someone. I don't just mean when I'm saying these points about talking to people, even if it's like the parallel play thing. I've heard that phrase before, where it's like you're like doing your own activities, but you're together. I think just, even if it's virtual or you're not in the same room, as long as you're kind of with people, even if you're doing your own thing, you still kind of get that social interaction in a sense, and it's nice. It's weird. It gives like a different feeling than when you're by yourself. Like it's a different feeling from like, let's say I'm drawing in my sketchbook alone in my room, to like if I'm on a Discord call and we're not saying anything to each other, and I'm still doing the same activity, even though the people aren't in the room with me, and we're talking or not talking or anything. It gives a different feeling. But with the hanging out stuff, I notice, if it gets me out of the house, and sometimes being able to just go talk to somebody else for a bit that's like not in your life, or if you're like by yourself a lot, or even just going to a different location or whatever, just trying to go to different places. It's nice. You kind of feel that in the moment of like, oh, this is something different, it feels pretty good. Or especially if it's like somewhere you really want to go, or somewhere that could sound fun, and then that gives you something to like look forward to in your week. I mean, I don't get that a lot, but it's nice. I mean, this month it's been kind of nice actually, because I've been hanging out with family and friends, and there's some Christmas activities coming up, and that, even if it's like a couple of things within your month or whatever, it's nice. Like having something to look forward to in general is good, but especially if it's like you get to go out and do a thing or whatever, change is good, is kind of what I'm trying to say. But that's like my little social tab. And then my next one is productivity. I didn't really know what to call this one, because I didn't want it to be like being productive in the way of like you have to be working, you have to be doing something all the time or whatever. This is just things that like sort of relate to that. That's why the first one is about breathing. Some of this stuff I'm pulling from like when I was in college and I was like very stressed and having to like work a ton on like projects and things, and some of it is just stuff I've figured out now that I don't have that, not just that amount of work or those things to do, but also just the stress that comes up from it. Like I got kind of really burned out the first half of the month, and I was like constantly stressed, and then it was really weird when it was the second half of the year. I mean, when suddenly all of those things were gone, and I had been in stress mode for so long that my body and my brain just kind of didn't know how to handle not having that, and what to like, cool, the stressor is gone, but the stress I think still kind of lingered in me, and how to like kind of process that and what to sort of do about how to handle it really. But then it was also the feeling of like, yay, I don't have a thing to do, but now it's like you kind of always need sort of something to do. I'm especially someone where it's like my brain never turns off. I always have to be doing something or planning something, even if I'm enjoying just sitting around, because I am kind of a lazy person. But I feel like sometimes I can have a hard time with relaxing, or I feel like guilty about it. So these are just some things that sort of kind of relate to that. That's kind of my whole point with the productivity slide, and some of these points might overlap with different slides. So the first one is remembering to breathe. I think that's more of a me with anxiety thing, but I thought that was like a good place to start off with this, where sometimes you can get stressed about a thing. Maybe it's a thing that you have to do, like let's say I have to make a phone call to a doctor or something, but it has to be, I can't do it immediately, it has to be at like later in the evening. That thought and that kind of stress of like I have to make that call and blah 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 will just be in my head like the entire day. I'll be stressed about it, even if I'm like eating lunch or I'm trying to do like a fun thing, like if I decide to like go on my phone or watch a movie or something, that will just be in the back of my mind stressing out. Or especially, and it's kind of annoying if it's something that like you're stressed about and then it turns out not to be a big deal, but like before the thing happens you don't know that. Or if it's like something stressful and then everything works out, and everyone always tells me like, yeah, of course it's gonna work out. Like a lot of people tell me like don't stress out about it, or what were you so worked out about, but like I don't always know that things are going to work out, and that's part of my anxiety thing. Or even if I'm like I don't have panic attacks much, but I used to, but just kind of in general, remembering to breathe. You don't really think about it like when you're just running around the house doing things or whatever, but then suddenly if you like feel stressed, or even sometimes when you're not stressed, it's kind of weird. Like if I get too excited about something, I'll sometimes also forget to breathe. Or it's like, I think it's just really if my brain just latches onto something in the moment way too hard, where I just kind of physically forget what to do. But breathing can help. Or I've noticed if I feel kind of stressed or even just upset about something, whether I'm like angry or sad, if I just, or sometimes my mind's going a mile a minute, or I'm like crying on the floor or whatever, if I just kind of force myself to physically like stop, like if I make myself just sit on the ground or just kind of stand there for a minute, and I just take a second to just not even to think about anything or try to calm down or whatever, I just try to like slow down and breathe. I think forcing myself to just suddenly like stop and just breathe, probably getting in some air into my brain, I think it doesn't solve the whole problem obviously, but it kind of just helps, and it's like a good starting point to kind of like try to calm yourself down and work through whatever it is. Or like the thing where I said, where if I get too excited or whatever, sometimes I can feel it where it feels like my heart almost like pauses. You can like feel it in your chest where you're like, okay, I gotta breathe or whatever. Or I notice that sometimes when I'm even talking in this microphone, I'm like go with what I'm saying like right now, and I like already forgotten to breathe. And sometimes I've noticed when I re-listen to these that like, oh, I breathed pretty hard at one moment, or I'm like constantly trying to catch my breath because my brain's so, you know, preoccupied. So the breathing thing, you don't really realize how important that is until you're like having a bit of a moment of whatever that is, you know? Okay, so the second point is about putting on some music or just like background noise as you're working. That's something I've kind of always had to do. I used to like work in silence. I remember in middle school I'd be sitting at my desk at like nighttime trying to do homework I didn't like, and there's something about having the silence. I know for like a lot of people it can be like helpful if it's silent, where they can focus on their work, and for me it kind of just varies. Of sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. Not even just with working on stuff, like I put working in general, where it's like homework, work, a project for work. It could be like literally anything you could substitute with the word working there. I just mean like you're in the middle of an activity or something you might need to focus on. Like I paint, for example. You'll hear me talk about that in a bit. But I find that especially if it's work that's stressful, like if you have some kind of crazy deadline or whatever, or sometimes with my painting it's like I have to wrap it up and go or whatever, but like my brain's trying to, like, needs to focus on what I'm doing, or if I'm trying to, like, I remember with college, when I was finishing up my final semester, I'd be doing a project till like midnight or something, and it's like I knew I had this deadline and I had to get this work done, and I didn't know how I was going to do it. And if I just put on music, or even for me sometimes I listen to ASMR, I would try to find the relaxing ones. A lot of ASMR I listen to has like a storyline, or a person is like in character. It wouldn't just be like the tingles and the triggers and things. But I would try to find one that's kind of relaxing that I didn't really care about. I think I've noticed with the music thing, that's why I also put on background noise. At least for me, I've noticed it's always like classical music that helps, especially if it's piano. Not all classical music, because a lot of it can be kind of soothing or just stuff you can put in the background. There's also classical music that like goes hard and it's really cool, but that sometimes does not help me when I need to focus. But like classical music, I've noticed that tends to help, or especially music that doesn't have like lyrics can also help, because you're like trying to focus on the lyrics or singing along with the song or whatever as you're working. But I find if it's just something soothing that doesn't really have any words, or it's like someone that's talking like a gentle voice, anything that just kind of, not music of like, oh, I need to focus or whatever, anything that's like intense, but I think if it's anything that just kind of you can listen to, that just kind of helps your brain sort of relax a bit. Not enough to make you like sleepy, because I've accidentally made that mistake where I'm getting bored with when it would be like my homework or something, and I'd put on like ASMR, some music, and it like makes me so relaxed I get sleepy, and then it makes me not want to work, and that's kind of the opposite of what I'm going for. Or if it's stuff that's like, let me see, the no lyrics thing, classical, could be like some white noise or something. There's like a specific one I'm trying to think of. I just kind of cannot think of it at the moment. But what I'm trying to say is any kind of noise you're not working in like dead silence, at least for me, I figured out can actually make me kind of, it's not even really about the focus. It's more of like, it's something that's kind of engaging my brain besides whatever the heck I'm working on that I might not like or be stressed about. And I know, not that it makes the stress go away, but I notice it can make me kind of work longer. It kind of keeps my focus more on the work, rather than like if I get bored, and I get distracted and bored incredibly easy. Let me tell you, if I like get up to go get a water bottle, I mean, getting up from your work, like don't be focused on it all the time. Something I forgot to write on here was like get up and kind of just stretch every once in a while. I notice even if I'm like playing a game or something and I'll play it for like 2 hours straight, and I have to remember like, okay, you have to get up every once in a while and just kind of stretch for a little bit, or move around, or stare at the wall, or just not focus on your work for a sec, also kind of helps. But yeah, having like music or something, so it's just something else to kind of focus on, Or I've heard the thing of like having like a little mint in your mouth or whatever. I think it's just about like engaging your other senses. Or I've noticed if I have a water bottle, you know, it's like kind of a bit of a struggle in a sense of like, you think, okay, I need to just study for this or do this or whatever, but I feel like there's so much that goes into it, of like the battle, at least for me, of trying to make sure I stay focused and actually do the work. And something that's kind of hard with me with that too is a lot of my work would be on the computer. It would be like graphic design stuff or an essay or whatever, and I have to resist the urge to not go on to another tab and start looking at memes or YouTube videos for like an hour or something. And that would be the hard thing when I'm like trying to take breaks too. It would just, especially like earlier this year when I needed to be the most like focused and such. And I know there's people who set like timers and things and whatever, and they have it where they like go take a break or whatever. I found that does not work for me at all. It would actually kind of make me do a bit worse. So I'm giving these tips, especially with like the productivity slide, but honestly, this kind of stuff isn't always helpful for everyone. I'm just sharing like what's kind of worked for me or things I've noticed that have kind of helped, even if it's not anything with working, even if it's like, I don't know, it's more of like I'm doing an activity and I'm keeping myself in one room for like hours on end, whether I'm like playing a game or painting outside or whatever. All right, I'm gonna go check something really quick and then I'll continue with this. Okay, I'm back. I was maybe going to eat something, which has to do with the thing I said about making sure to take breaks and such. Okay, just wanted to make sure I was still recording. So moving on to my third point on here. If there isn't any, and I was just trying to keep this vague, like job work or homework to do, try focusing on like a hobby you like. I'm not saying in the times when you're like feeling really bored. I mean, this solution also works, but I'm just saying if like in like a long-term sort of thing, if you don't, it's kind of a weird thing of like going through the day, and I'm used to having like homework, you know, with the first half of the year. Now I don't, and just I mentioned about trying to adjust to that. And I mean, I do try to do the other things I have to do and stuff of the more important things like driving, trying to cook, or trying to find like a job and stuff. Like I am doing those things, but those aren't always things that you could do like for the entire day, and plus that feels like kind of tiring as well. So then you still have the hours of the day, and you might be like, okay, you can do that for like some fun stuff and whatever to like relax, and I do that too. But I found that sometimes I'm a little hard on myself, and I feel like I need something that counts as like being productive in a sense, or something that let me try to rephrase it, or this might just be like a me context thing, I don't know, where like if I go to a relative that I haven't talked to in like a month or something, and they're like, oh, what have you been up to? It's like the kind of thing that would be like, I guess, more socially aware to share, because like I do fun stuff as well, like watching movies and playing games, but like those are the kind of things that like most like relatives, and I'm using that as just an example, like don't really care or want to hear about. I've noticed with like older adults, because like I said, I'm like a young adult in my like 20s somewhere, where they don't want to, I mean, unless they're like into that stuff too, and then that's super cool. But a lot of the like older ones, like older relatives or like grandparents or whatever, sometimes just don't want to hear about those things, or they, you know, they want to hear about the things of you being like quote unquote productive or whatever. So that's kind of more of what I'm trying to refer to here, of trying to explain what I mean with that word for this kind of context. But that's what I said about focusing on like hobbies you like. I've noticed, not just so that you have something to talk to with those people, which is nice because I can tell them like, yeah, I've been like painting and drawing or whatever, and they're like, okay, cool, you're like, you know, doing stuff. But I'm also mentioning about this as like the person doing these things sort of thing, where sometimes I'd feel kind of down where I'm like, oh, I did some fun stuff, or sometimes there might be a day when I'm like not doing, the job searching or whatever. Maybe I got sick, let's say, for example, or something happened, or sometimes I just don't, the life happens, things happen. You can't be productive like every single day, and it's also can kind of like tire you out too. And I'm using the job hunting thing as an example. It could be like anything really, of whatever you got to do, like cooking, or I don't know, taking your kids to a sports game, or whatever. But having a hobby when there kind of isn't something to do, and when you can think of like, okay, I did like something, it's kind of a feeling of like, I think for me, making progress on something, like if I have a painting and I work on a painting for part of the day, even if I don't finish, I can say, hey, I did something with the day. It's that having that feeling of like accomplishment, even only a little bit. I mean, relaxing and doing other stuff is fun too, of course. I'm not saying like, oh, those aren't important, but it gives you like a different feeling. Like if I work on part of a painting, and sometimes I'm mad at myself that like I don't finish it or whatever, like I didn't finish it within the whole day, like, when you don't finish a task and you're like, because you have more of it to do like the next day or whatever. But it could be kind of nice where I'm like, yeah, I woke up and today I did this, and I did a little bit of this painting, and I did it. Sometimes it's just like, hey, I did a thing, and you know what? I progressed in something, and that feels cool. Sometimes for me, it's not even always painting or like a hobby thing. Sometimes it's like I'm going to make a video about this or whatever. And I know it's funny I'm saying that when I don't make many videos in here, but with my other channel, the gaming movie one, I make so many videos, it's not even funny. But sometimes it's like, I'm gonna make a video about this, or I'm gonna read a couple chapters of this. I try to set those like little mini goals in mind for myself. Sometimes I just think about those before I even wake up. I'm not saying you have to plan like every part of your life, or you have to accomplish something every day or whatever, because a lot of the time I don't, but it's kind of nice even to have it if it's like a small things, even if it's stuff that like most people wouldn't care about, but it makes you happy about and you feel happy doing the thing. It's kind of nice. Like I'm reading a manga series, for example, and sometimes I try to read it at night and I forget, and I'm trying to get myself to like read it or do a thing, and I'm like, I'll just read like a little bit of it, or I'll go through some of a painting, or I'll make a video about whatever. Or maybe it's like I'm trying to get through part of a show, or just something. If you can say at the end of the day like hey, I did at least this or whatever, it sometimes feels kind of nice, feels like you're being productive and you are, of course, you're doing a thing, that you're wanting to do, and you're progressing through something, and it gives a nice feeling, is what I'm trying to say. Like painting's my main one, but I do other stuff as well. I also write, I read, I do all kinds of, like one of my things I'm doing right now is an example of something that like probably only I would care about, is I'm going through the Just Dance games as a form of exercise, and I've been making a playlist that's just kind of for me of the songs I like. So I'm going through all the songs in the different games, and I'm making this playlist, and I've been doing that at night, and it gives me the excuse to exercise, and it's a thing I know probably no one else is going to care about, but it makes me happy, and it gives me that sense of progression of where sometimes I'm doing things in the day and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do this later, I'm gonna get through a couple songs, and that's kind of more the thing I'm talking about, I guess, of I'm doing a goal and doing part of the goal feels good, and that relates to one of my other points. Okay, it's on the other slide, it's on the mental health slide, so I might go over this ground later. So being yourself, this is one I wasn't sure if I was gonna add. This is maybe the most personal this gets, I'm not completely sure. I don't remember really what's on the other slide even though I made this like an hour ago. These are more things I've kind of discovered about myself, but I feel like maybe it's also things people are struggling with, and I feel like I kind of have to explain these a bit too. So my first one, and they kind of, points 1 and points 2 kind of are just really similar, so I might kind of blend those a bit, but I'll start it off with this. Don't be embarrassed of things I'm curious about or like. And I know I use that phrasing a lot in this of like, don't do this, whatever. I don't mean these as like set in stone things I'm like trying to tell you what to do. I was just trying to make it in like a general point, and then I kind of clarify more later. But yeah, the don't be embarrassed of things and curious, it's kind of weird. Like, we all have the thing of like, we get, and I feel weird. I keep saying like, it's weird. None of these things are weird. I just can't think of another word off the top of my head. These things aren't weird. These things are normal. We all get embarrassed of things related with when we're with other people, like if we do something embarrassing and someone else sees, or the whole like guilty pleasure thing or whatever. But I've discovered this year, it's a thing I've felt the last couple years, but I think only this year I've thought about it, and I'm like, oh, I'm doing this kind of behavior. Like, I'm recognizing that's part of the thing with this like lessons sort of PowerPoint thing of more of like, I'm realizing this year some of these behaviors I have or things I think about and whatever, and I'm trying to like personally just me work on these things is kind of how this is going. But yeah, I notice I'll get embarrassed myself of things. Sometimes it's things I really like, but it's kind of in that aspect of like a sort of guilty pleasure thing where you feel guilty for liking the thing, even if you don't tell anybody, even if it's just you. Maybe it's something that, let's say, a lot of people like think is cringe or whatever, or maybe it's something that's like, I don't know, I'm gonna just make this up, I don't mean this as like a judgy thing. Maybe you're like somebody that's watching a show for like kids or whatever. It's kind of like the thing, for example, of like, I don't know, like a lot of adults I found out were getting into Bluey, and then I tried watching it and I was like, this is pretty good. And that's not something I'd feel embarrassed about, because I've never been embarrassed about watching things that are for kids or that are like marketed towards kids, I mean, I don't really watch like preschool shows or whatever. It would be like stuff that would be on like Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon and stuff, because I've always watched that stuff, so I'm like never embarrassed. But like the Bluey thing, for example, you could use that as an example of like, oh, it's a show for like little kids, but like adults are watching and stuff. But if it's something that's just like good or whatever, it's fine, you enjoy it, whatever. That's what I'm like trying to say. If it's like, something that a lot of people see is cringe, like there's been plenty of cringe things that I've like kind of re-gotten into, or that I was into for a while and not really anymore, that I wouldn't really tell people about, or I would feel that kind of shame of like, oh, this is a cringe thing and I know that, or it's seen as cringe by other people and I like it, and I'd feel kind of a little internally embarrassed about it, and then I've realized it's like who cares, honestly, if you're not really telling people about it anyway, or even if you do, or if someone teases you. I mean, okay, it sucks when people tease you about things you like. I've definitely felt that. I'm not saying like, oh, you shouldn't care about that, because I do, I get it, but I guess I'm trying to say, like, to yourself, if it's just you, I've noticed if I try not to feel embarrassed and I just accept, like, I like this thing, people see it as cringe, but I like it and that's okay. And I mean, that doesn't always work for me, but I've noticed it kind of helps, whether it's like, I don't know, an anime or a game or something that like people see as cringe, and maybe I'm only into it for a while, and if I try to, what's that phrase people use, the I'm cringe but I'm free, that's kind of the embodiment of this point that I'm trying to say. Or with the curious thing, let me explain about that. Sometimes there's things I'm curious about, like a show I hear about that's like popular, or maybe it's not, or it's just whatever, that I'm curious about, that I'm like, it's funny where I'm like, I kind of want to get into this thing, but I feel sort of excited / embarrassment about making the push to start it, where I'm like, I don't know if I want to, and whatever. It's kind of funny to think about. I think I felt that way with what was the show, Miraculous Ladybug. I had that like excited embarrassment thing about like wanting to actually like try watching it myself, and then I ended up watching it with my cousin or something, and then I realized at the time, because I don't really like it anymore, I don't really watch it anymore, where I was like, oh shit, this is actually kind of fun to watch. It's stuff like that where I feel kind of antsy of making that push to be like, okay, I'm gonna get into this thing, because that can be a commitment for like whatever, whether it's like starting a show where it's like, okay, you have to get through all the episodes, or a game, it's like you have to put the time into the thing, and sometimes you're not sure if you want to put that time in, like, is it going to be worth it, or if it's something I'm embarrassed about, what if I don't like it, or whatever, where sometimes you're just like, this thing might be cringe, do I want to get into it? And I'm just like, who cares, go for it. And that relates to my second point of you don't need to put off the thing you're looking forward to. That is a habit I have as well, where I'm like really excited about something, and it could even be something small. Like let's say I'm starting to listen to music from like a band, and there's one album that has a song that I already know that I like really, really like or whatever, and I'm like, oh, I want to get to that album. But like, let's say I'm trying to listen to them in chronological order, and sometimes I just kind of force myself and do that and then get to the song. Or let's say it's like I purposely put that album that I'm excited for with the song I like, and instead of going in the chronological order or listening to it immediately, I put it at the very bottom, where I just try to put the thing I like as far away from me as possible, because I think in my head I'm thinking like, oh, this is a thing I'm going to enjoy, and then when it's over, I don't have that enjoyment anymore, so let me push it as far into the future as possible so that I can have, like, kind of store that happiness in a sense for, like, later. But then as I'm watching the other things and listening to the other songs or whatever, I'm still thinking about the thing that I'm excited about, and then I can't really focus, and then I get to the thing I'm excited about, and I can't focus on it because I'm making my expectations too high, and I'm too excited about the thing that I can't experience it as it happens. And it's not just like with music, it could be, sometimes I do that with YouTube videos. I'll have a bunch of tabs open, and I'll have a tab for one video I'm so excited for, and I just keep watching all this other stuff first, and then it's like midnight, and then I don't put off the thing. Maybe I put off watching that video for like another day. Or it could be like an episode of a show, or going out with the person. You're gonna go, I don't know, go to an amusement park or something, whatever it is. But it's kind of interesting to talk about. I don't know why I have this habit of putting forward the thing. I think it's because I don't have many things I look forward to in general. Or even if it's something I'm excited, or I know I should be excited about, like let's say a remake of a beloved game comes out that I love, and normally I would be excited about it, but sometimes I'm just not. Sometimes the excitement doesn't hit, or it never does, and I'm just like whatever about it, you know? But what I'm trying to say is I'd like to break this habit, and it's probably a habit other people have too or whatever, where I'm thinking like, why am I putting off this thing that will make me, that I'm excited for, that will make me happy in that moment? I'm realizing even if that happiness is small and short or whatever the heck it is, maybe I see one really goofy TikTok video or something, and sometimes I think like, I'm not gonna be that excited again, or that was such a short little burst of happiness, and then I'm back to being just neutral. I think letting myself just experiencing it, and just the fact that I have something I'm excited about, or a thing that just very briefly makes me happy, no matter how brief it is, I think that's really important, and I'm saying but this could go towards like anyone. Just like let yourself just experience it anyway. I feel like I keep starving myself off of like things that make me happy or not taking them seriously. And I think that's kind of a problem, honestly. But my point is, yeah, I'm trying to just let myself experience the thing. I've noticed it especially with music. I've been finding songs, especially because of the Just Dance thing or music performances in SNL or whatever, where I find a song I really like and it gets stuck in my head, and I just put myself off from listening to it until the excitement inside me for it dies. And I'm like, why don't I just let myself like listen to the song and whatever, even if I have the problem where I repeat it for like several more times and then it gets stuck in my head at night and I can't sleep. Like, let yourself just feel that joy, no matter how brief it is, or knowing that it will be gone and you have to wait a while until there's something else you get excited about. I think it's almost like a sort of privilege in a way of like letting yourself be excited about something, or just having that feeling of excitement. It reminds me of like when I was 10 and I'd go on a field trip, and the night before I would be so excited I couldn't sleep. I feel like as an adult now, I don't get that feeling as much. So if I get like a teeny weeny taste of that feeling with like there's a really cool catchy song that's stuck in my head that makes me happy and I dance around to it, or like a game I'm excited about, or I want to go eat a meal at a cool restaurant and it's got a food I've been looking forward to. Like this year, because of some like dental stuff and whatever I won't get into, I really, really wanted a lox bagel. Even though I've never had one in my life, I was craving it for like, I'm not kidding, like an entire year after I had jaw surgery. And then I finally got to eat the bagel, like just kind of randomly on a cruise. I discovered it was on a menu. I don't know why I didn't just go to a bagel place, but whatever. And then I ate the bagel, and you know what? It was really good, and I was really excited in that moment. And I wasn't excited again about any other food, and I'm still not. But you know what? That moment of getting to enjoy the bagel and being excited for it when I finally found out I could get it and whatever, and like having that whole craving, I don't know why it was for a year, that was cool. I'd like that feeling again. And I know deep down at some point there's going to be something that gives me that excited feeling again. And it just, I don't know. I'm getting like way too into this. I'm gonna move on. You get my point. Okay, so I think this is my last slide, and I know this is probably gonna be like an hour or whatever, but I don't care. I'm making this so other people can see it. I'm gonna actually send this to one of my friends, but I'm also kind of just making this for me too. So my last thing is mental health. I mentioned about anxiety earlier. I'm someone that struggles with mental health. There's other things I struggle with, but anxiety is kind of the main one. But my mental health has gone down the second half of the year for reasons I've mentioned, So this has been the thing I've been struggling with the most in trying to learn some of these things, and these are kind of more of the most recent things, and these are the things I'm still trying to learn. I know I said that, but that are like the hardest for me. And actually one of these things, the third point, was something of a thing that had like literally just happened like last week, and is the most kind of recent of the lessons that I'm still kind of going through that pain. But let's start off with the first point. And I feel like these are kind of some things you kind of only realize when your brain's not in like stress mode about just general life, or if you have like a ton of things to do. Because I know I'm in a weird spot where I'm having a lot of available time, but I'm even referring to like, let's say you're driving and you're on a you're in a car on a road trip for several hours, or you're waiting in like a doctor's office, or you're like, I don't know, sitting on the toilet or whatever. There's a lot of times that we're forced to in situations, or just because, I don't know, where you're not really given anything to do and your mind kind of just wanders. And I think that's like a good thing, you know, or maybe you have like an afternoon free and you don't have anything to do, or the times where you get bored or whatever. I think it's kind of in these it's only really in these kind of moments when you have that time and kind of nothing really going on, that these kind of things I'm gonna mention, or these thoughts might come to you in those moments, are kind of when you sort of realize these things, if that makes sense. So my first thing is do a little every day. If you do nothing, that's okay too. Especially that second part has been more important to me. So to do a little every day, I think that's been kind of more of like a motivation thing. I feel like the past couple months I've struggled with motivation, with not just the important things I need to do to kind of get my life going, but just in general with a lot of things, even if it's things that I'm excited about, like, I don't know, I'm gonna paint, or I'm playing Luigi's Mansion, for example, the second one, and sometimes I don't even have the motivation to play it, even though I kind of want to. It could be something like that. But I'm saying like the do a little every day, I've noticed, especially when it's something I need to be like super productive with, or that's something that's like very important, I sometimes just don't want to, and I think I'm kind of looking for the dopamine in other things. It's like the feeling where it's like you have an important task to do, and then instead you end up cleaning your room and your entire house the whole day, where it's like you would rather do literally anything else, that you start doing tasks that like aren't as important. And I mean, you're still being productive and you're doing things, but like you're not doing the thing that you have to do. So especially for those situations, to do a little every day is like, if I'd have the problem where I'm like, I need to do this thing and like multiple things, or there's one big thing I have to do, but I notice if I cut it up into little pieces and I do like a little bit, even if it doesn't seem like much, or it's not the most important part, or the day where I'm not making the most important progress, or the most progress, I noticed it helps. I mean, this was something I kind of had to learn with school too, of like trying to balance all my different projects or whatever, even if they were like for the same subject. It was especially like on the weekends when I'd have the time of like, okay, it's homework day and I have all these things to do. If I just do like a little bit of each thing, you know, that's like, it's kind of like there's less for you to do tomorrow if you do a little every day. Or even if it's like the Luigi's Mansion thing I mentioned, where I just play for like an hour or whatever. Sometimes if I put it on like I'm gonna do half an hour of this today or whatever, it helps. But sometimes I just can't bring myself to even do that, where I'm like, all right, let me just write a paragraph of this essay. Or sometimes it would be something like, okay, I'm gonna research this. Even if it's like not the main thing, but like the prep work, as I'll call it, the stuff that might be even more boring or whatever, you think like, oh, I want to get to the main thing already. Even if you just do the prep work, as I'll call it, which could be whatever, you know, like let's say it's like the research for the paper or something, even if you just do that, that still counts as like something. I think the main thing I should say with this is just relates to the other points of just, I said do a thing, just do anything, something, just doing in general. I'm sorry, this feels so like kind of vague. I think just kind of helps with a lot of stuff. And the thing is, and it goes to that second sentence, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I get too bored and I can't motivate myself, or I'm tired, or I get distracted by something, or maybe I have a plan of I'm gonna do this thing, and then someone's like, hey, let's go out and do something else or whatever. And that happens a lot, where it's like I don't know, let's say I want to do something, and then a person's like, okay, you got to drive me in here and we're going to do this whole outing or whatever. And then the next thing I know, it's like nighttime and I didn't get to do the thing I wanted to do. And I beat myself up over that. Of just being like, man, I didn't do the thing. Or maybe I'm kind of tired and I give myself like a lazy day if I'm able to, of like, okay, I'm too burned out or I'm too stressed about something. Let me just take a day where I relax. Or even if it's something else, like let's say I needed to do like homework and I've been doing it during the week, and then I take a part of a day where I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna like do laundry, like where I'm still doing something, but it's not the thing I need to do. Whatever, you know, there's a lot of scenarios as I'm listing. If for whatever reason, if you don't end up getting to do a little every day and you just don't get to do the thing at all, even if you like take a day to relax, like if I just decide I'm gonna watch a movie in the afternoon or something and I would get mad at myself about that, I think that's okay too. Sometimes you just kind of need it. You just need like a break, or maybe there's like other things you've been putting off that you got to do. Like I mentioned about the laundry thing, I do my laundry on like weekends, and sometimes I just do that. And you know what? Sometimes that just feels good too, of like, hey, I'm doing this other thing I needed to do. And I'm not saying like with these of like, you have to be doing something all the time. No, sometimes I like go play a game, or I draw for a bit, or I read, or I go eat lunch, or I even just go outside and I just kind of stand there in the sun sometimes. Sometimes you just need that. It's kind of like a just do whatever you need to do. I think that feels good in the moment. I mean, don't like put things off forever or whatever. Or I'm not telling you how to live your life. You go do whatever you want to do. I'm just saying the things that have worked for me as someone that does not have good motivation, has anxiety, and tends to be kind of lazy. You might not be any of that, and whatever, or you might be going through it worse. You can do whatever. That's my thing I'm saying, but I don't know. I have this quote on my wall that I made up, and I wrote it in these little letters that you can put up on your wall, and I made it into this phrase and I kept it there. And this isn't one of my like, oh, this is how people have like a motivational phrase or a mantra. I don't really personally believe in that stuff, but that's just me. I guess this is the closest to a mantra I have, and I feel like maybe it helps with this. I don't know if it helps me or not, but I see it every morning because it's on my wall when I wake up, so it's somewhere in my mind. I'll read it to you. It says, relax, comma, just be a human. I was almost going to write just be. I think that also works too. If relax, just be is like a shorter, probably better version of that. But I think that's what I'm trying to say with this first point or whatever. I end up too hard on myself personally, as you'll see with that third point, but also just, you know, with the world and other people and expectations and the things you got to do, you got to be productive. And sometimes you do it and sometimes you don't. And sometimes things in life happen, and whatever happens, you know, I mean, you can't always relax either. Sometimes you need to not be relaxed. But I think with the just be thing, with the just be a human, like I've realized things happen, and no matter how hard I try and how much I stress myself out or prep for something or whatever, shit happens, life happens, you know. And I've been trying to just remember, if I just do stuff, you know, I have a point on the other slide, which I guess sums up what I'm also trying to say of, wait, what was the other thing? Oh, wait, where is it? Oh, I skipped the entire third thing on here. I'm gonna have to go back to that, I'm sorry. I thought I wrote on one of these slides about, point is gone. What was it? Take it one day at a time. That's on one of these slides. Where is it? Oh my gosh, I didn't write it on any of these. I swear I remember writing that somewhere. Damn, okay. But that was supposed to be on one of these slides. It was supposed to say, just take it one day at a time, and that was one of the most important things that I learned this year and that I needed to share on here. It was supposed to be here somewhere, but I need to go back after the mental health slide and read this third thing. But yeah, it's supposed to be take it easy, just take it one day at a time. That's been my main motivator, because sometimes I don't have the motivation or whatever, and all these things I've been saying the past couple minutes just kind of boils down to, if you just try to get through one day at a time, even if it's a really hard day or you feel like shit or just whatever, that has been kind of my new goal of, life happens, just get through whatever the day is, even if there's nothing stressful going through that day, or there's something in the back of your mind, or just literally of whatever is happening or not happening. If you just get through the day and that's your goal, no matter like how you're feeling, that's kind of what we all do. But I've noticed if I think about it that way, and forgetting about the motivation stuff or the productiveness or the whatever, I think that's just kind of how I'm trying to live my life and to view it. And I don't know if that completely helps, but it's what I do. It's something. And then the second point, you don't have to strive for perfection with your hobbies. You can just let your mind go. I've noticed this tends to relate more for me for artwork with the painting thing. Like, especially, I'm not a perfectionist in everything. It's mostly just with painting. It's more of like I'm trying to paint specific things, or I'm using something as a reference, and I think of like, I need to get it exact, even if it's in my own art style or whatever. I feel like I don't really have an art style, but apparently my friends tell me they can recognize my paintings just from seeing them. But the perfection thing can go with anything about if like you don't have to strive for perfection. Or sometimes I'm not even striving for perfection. Sometimes I'm just like, I want this to be acceptable to others, where someone will think like, that looks cool. Not that I'm seeking that approval, but sometimes I think about that. Or if I just want something, like to look like I tried, and to at least where I can say it can look good, or just something I can be proud of, and that will be my thing of at least striving for that. If you replace it with the word like perfection, you can let your mind go. I've specifically gotten into with painting, but it could be with anything that's just like you put your brain on autopilot. Sometimes I have to do that. I put my brain on autopilot, when I'm doing things, and that will help kind of relieve my stress. Even when I'm doing like basic tasks or whatever, like I would be like washing the dishes and I'd be like really focused, and I'm thinking like, it's just dishes, just do whatever. Like sometimes letting your mind wander helps, especially with the artwork thing. Like with the paintings, I feel like my paintings weren't being very creative, no matter what I was painting. And I thought, if I just put on some music, sometimes I like paint whatever feeling I'm feeling from the song, or just whatever pops in my brain. I've been doing that with watercolor pencils. I think about like a beach or something, and I just go from there, or I pick some colors. Like I try and give myself some starting point, but some days I've even just like literally just got some bottles of paint and I just go and I make whatever it turns out. And sometimes I hate it, and I'm hard on myself in that aspect of just sometimes I put the painting in the closet and I don't want to look at it anymore, or I paint, or it's the worst feeling with like creative things when you make something and you immediately hate it, but you put all that time into it. It's stuff like that. But sometimes striving for perfection, I guess it's more of like, I think with some stuff it could be like, just try to do your best. And I think with other stuff it could be like make something you're proud of. Sometimes that can also be hard, because then you want to be a good job, so you could do a good job so you can be like proud of it. But I think if you make something or whatever, and as long as, whether it's a painting or you're making cookies, and it could just be a feeling towards an activity, as long as you like it at the end, if it's not something that's like critically important or involves other people, like let's say I'm baking cookies for myself or whatever, or it's like a painting that's gonna just stay in my house forever. If you like it and yeah, as long as you like it, whether you're proud of it or not, and you feel like that time wasn't wasted. If you had fun, I think is the things I'm trying to say. If you had fun and if you liked it, and you can't apply that to everything, but if you think about it that way, you know, sometimes that kind of helps. Like sometimes my parents go to the casino and I don't ask them anymore, like, did you win? I just ask them, like, and sometimes they say no. And then my second question always is, but did you have fun? And I've been trying to apply that for myself too when I do something. And sometimes I'm bummed about it for whatever. And I think, like, but did I have fun with it? Or whatever, even if it's something I didn't like. And if I have fun, I feel like, and it's not something that's crazy important, I think that makes it worth it, honestly. Okay, and then my third thing is don't beat yourself up if you mess something up. That was my most recent thing, and a thing I'm trying to get through, where I'll be very hard on myself, as I've been saying, and if I just completely mess something up, no matter how bad, I will be stressed about it. I sometimes will not, like with the situation of the thing that happened, I was not sleeping. It was constantly in my head. I would sometimes be able to not focus on it, and then something would remind me of it, and then I'd immediately feel like the worst person in the world again, especially if it's something you feel like guilty for whatever, or a thing happens and you end up having regrets about it later, or sometimes things just happen, or in the moment you don't handle something well and you only have that clarity, that like hindsight afterwards, and you think like, man, I don't know, fucked this thing up or whatever, or you're like, why did I make this decision, or you said something stupid to someone, or even it could be something like, what is it when someone will say have a good meal or whatever, and you say you too, or just something like that, where you feel like kind of embarrassed for a moment. It could even be something like that, and I know that's easy to say, don't beat yourself up if you mess something up or you feel embarrassed or whatever, because we're all kind of like that, but I'm trying to just let go if possible, and sometimes that's really hard when you're feeling those negative emotions, and sometimes you just can't, and you just kind of accept that's the way it is. But in situations where it's something that's not a big deal, and I'm trying to make the effort to just kind of let things go, and it hasn't really been working, not all the time, but if even sometimes it does, and that's good. Okay, my thing on here, the being yourself, this is my last information slide. I can't believe I skipped this one. Some people will, I feel like I need to explain this one too. Some people will shame you or make comments about you, but don't feel ashamed of existing as yourself. I wasn't completely sure how to word it. How do I explain this one? Because this one is like very personal to me. Where there are people in my life, I'm keeping this kind of vague on purpose, who don't know some things about me, like identity-wise and such, and they will make comments that aren't specifically directed about me, or at me, or like the thing they don't know, but it will be about the thing, and I still kind of take offense, and it makes me not want to say anything and kind of close off. And sometimes I vent to people about this, and it's like a very specific thing I'm talking about, and that can suck. And you think like, wow, I'm just out here being me, and you, I guess, would have some kind of problem with that, you know? And I'm trying to think, and I took inspiration for that from a conversation I had where I vented about one of these kind of scenarios to one of my friends. I don't remember what my friend said. Let me actually look. Hold on. It was on Discord. It was a conversation I had recently. This will take a second. Oh, it's not here. Oh, no, okay, the thing my friend said was that, the way you feel comfortable with yourself is your choice. And my friend said they were proud of me of standing up for the thing that I'm like talking about. I don't remember what our conversation was. I think it was about people living in a bubble or about various things. But yeah, I was thinking about those words about the being comfortable as yourself thing. When other people, you'll hear things, or even if it's not anything about you, maybe it's a comment someone makes that relates to somebody you know, and you like take offense in their behalf or whatever. I'm trying not to take those things personally if they're like not directed at me, if that makes sense. But that's kind of what I meant with this, of like the don't feel ashamed for existing. I mean, that's like the similar thing my friend said about like standing up for who you are. And I mean, sometimes you can't, or you don't, or whatever, and you sometimes just can't say anything or you choose not to or whatever. But if you, I'm sorry, I'm trying to think of the right way to word this. Internally, like, don't feel bad, trying not to feel bad about it, and you're like, I'm me, and that's okay. I think it kind of helps those situations of like, don't take it like too hard, try not to take it like too hard, and it can be kind of tough, you know, if you're in those situations again and again, or sometimes you can't change people's minds about things or whatever, but not to feel too disheartened and to keep trying, I think is important. Or even if you're in a situation where you can't do anything about it, to not feel bad about yourself or anything, I think kind of works. I think kind of, I'm trying to remember that is what I'm trying to say. Sorry, I know I'm going so slow with this and trying carefully to choose my words. It's just, it's something that like personally I've been like really struggling with, and it's kind of frustrating, but that's the lesson I've sort of learned of it, of not to feel bad about, I can explain more in the comments if anyone wants like clarification. Is what I'm trying to say here, of like I could explain it more. I feel like I kind of can't right now, and not really for this. But yeah, thanks for watching. I'm gonna end it here. I know and this is the thing that I have with my other channel too, where I have something I talk about and then I just kind of go on it for like a bit too long, but I think it's just I'm trying to find the right words, and some of these things I'll feel kind of strongly about whatever, or I have a lot to say, and sometimes I tend to kind of go on for a bit long or kind of ramble a bit, and I'm not trying to. And I know there's this thing where it's like, but Jules, you can write scripts and stuff. I've tried that, of writing out exactly what I want to say, and then I need my heart to be in it, and I need to be focused more on like what I'm feeling, and sometimes I change things in the moment from like a script or whatever. I found that writing scripts doesn't help me, because I don't want to think of this as like, you know, with making videos in general, of like, oh, I feel like I get into the mindset, even with this PowerPoint, of like when I was making it, of like, I'm in school, I need to give this as a presentation, I need to memorize it and get everything right and do a good job. And it's like, no, I'm trying to talk about, I don't know, a movie or whatever. A lot of the times it's talking about like my opinions and feelings on things, and I feel like it's personally harder for me if I have a script. So there may be more of these kind of videos where I kind of just ramble on about whatever, and maybe I'm making them for you, maybe I'm making them for me, but I'll still make them anyway. But yeah, thank you for watching this. I'm assuming this is probably like an hour and a half. I don't know if anyone's even gonna watch this, but I decided to make it anyway. And now that I'm done with it, I'm glad I am, because you know what? I learned these things, or I recognize some of these behaviors or habits or these sort of little lessons I've had to learn. And I think it's kind of personally important to just acknowledge, even if you don't do anything about them or whatever, or it's just like I'm saying stuff, I think it's like an important step, whether it's a first step or not, to kind of just recognize these things. And I wanted to also make this, you know, in case there's other people who are also going through this stuff, and maybe me talking about it and whatever kind of helps. Maybe you learned something from this, maybe you didn't, but thank you for watching regardless. I might make one of these for next year too. I know I don't post a lot on this channel. It's just kind of more of a, whenever I'm feeling about it, this is a channel where I'm trying not to be like stressed about it. Sometimes, like with my other channel, I used to get very kind of like, okay, I need to make these videos on this, and it was kind of becoming something that I was stressed out about, of making so much content and about whatever, and I wasn't really into it anymore and trying to make things people like. But with this one, it's just I'm gonna make a video on whatever I want, when I want, and have it could be like a fun little thing to look back to someday, or like I mentioned, maybe we'll make some on like drawings I've been doing this past year. But I like making these kind of, and I've made them before on other channels I've had in the past, of these little, let's reflect on the year, whether it's something for me or something of it within the year, things that happen, whatever in general. I think they're kind of fun. I think they're kind of, it's kind of nice to have that time at the end of the year. I feel like it kind of helps in some way. Maybe it could be fun. But yeah, that's that. Thanks for watching. I don't know if I'll make any of these more Canva PowerPoints again. We'll see. Bye bye.